Okay, so uh, anyone who's dreamt of becoming a thought leader, this one's for you. We've got this source about using podcasts. And honestly, it kind of blew my mind. It's not just about, like, being a guest on a show. It's way more strategic than that.
It really makes you question what thought leadership even means these days, right?
Really?
I mean, we're so used to thinking like big conferences, fancy titles.
Yeah.
But this source is all about how do you actually get people to see you as the expert,
Yeah.
And how are people even finding experts in the first place?
Right, because it's not like there's a directory or something. You just Google it, right? And the source even says anyone can call themselves a thought leader.
Exactly. It's meaningless. It's like, okay, congrats on the label, but what about...
What does that even mean?
Exactly. This source, it gets at something so crucial. It's about earned authority. People crave experts. They want that deep knowledge. And where do they go? Search.
And that's where things get really interesting for me, because SEO, we got to talk about SEO.
Yeah.
This source dives into how crazy powerful podcasts are for, like, actually ranking in search results.
It's a total blind spot. Even the source quotes Neil Patel, the SEO guy,
Yeah.
saying it can be 100 times easier to rank for a keyword on a podcast than like a blog post or an article. Think about how competitive those top spots are. It's insane.
100x. Seriously. That's wild.
Yeah.
But, okay, how does that even work?
Well, for one thing, there are just way fewer podcasts than like blog posts out there. It's a less crowded space.
Makes sense.
But the bigger thing is how Google itself is treating podcasts now. You ever notice that little podcast stripe that pops up sometimes on page 1 of your search results?
You mean that thing, like, with the podcast art and everything?
Exactly. Prime real estate. It's a visual cue. It draws your eye. It shows Google sees podcasts as valuable info, especially for, those longer, more complex topics people are searching for.
Right. It's not just a quick answer. It's like you want to really dive into something.
Totally. The source gave this great example. Imagine you're trying to rank for data science. Crazy competitive, right? Good luck going up against like Harvard Business Review with just a blog post.
Yeah, you're toast.
But with podcasts, it's more level. There's a real opening there.
So you're saying someone with the right podcast strategy could actually outrank those huge publications?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not just Google Podcasts, although that's huge. It's about how people use Google anyway. They might not be searching podcasts, but if Google's putting those episodes right in front of them.
It's like you're meeting them where they already are.
Exactly.
Super powerful.
It's like you're tapping into this whole other side of search, right? People are out there looking for experts, and podcasts put you right in that conversation.
Totally. And it's not just about, like, being findable. It's how podcast guesting positions you. The source talks about this idea of validation.
Oh, interesting.
Like, if you're being interviewed on a show, right, having that conversation with the host, it hits different than just saying on your website, I'm a thought leader.
It's like a third-party endorsement almost.
Exactly. It's not you tooting your own horn. Someone else is saying, hey, this person's worth listening to.
Yeah.
It adds that credibility.
It sparks curiosity, too. Think about it. If you follow a podcast, you like the host, you find them smart, and they bring on this guest.
You're like, okay, they must be legit.
Exactly. So now I'm curious. So let's say someone stumbles across this episode, maybe through a search, they dig your expertise. What then?
Right. How do you turn that listener into like a fan, a follower, someone who actually wants to engage with your work more deeply?
And that's where the source gets into this thought leadership funnel idea.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Break that down for me.
Basically, it's not enough to just be on the show. You got to have a plan. What happens after someone listens?
So it's like each episode is a stepping stone.
Exactly. They find you, step 1. Step 2, they're into what you're saying, your perspective. But then what? That's where the call to action comes in.
You got to tell them, hey, if you like this, here's how to go deeper.
Exactly. Direct them to your website, a newsletter sign up, mention an event you're doing. Every podcast becomes a potential lead generator,
Instead of just a one-time thing, it's like the start of a relationship.
Totally. And this is what I love about podcasting compared to like social media. You post something, it's gone in the feed, right? Podcasts stick around.
Oh, tell me about it. I'm constantly revisiting old episodes, stuff from years ago that's still relevant.
Right, like little time capsules of knowledge. It's such a sustainable way to build thought leadership. It's not about algorithms or like fighting for attention. It's about creating something that lasts.
Like that compound interest thing.
Exactly. Each episode, each conversation, it's a deposit. Over time, it builds up. You reach more people, your impact grows, it just compounds.
It's true. It's like building this library of your expertise.
Mm.
But it's not hidden away. It's out there, accessible 24/7.
Yeah. And you know what I find so interesting? It plays into how we build trust naturally. It's not about like shoving your message down people's throats.
Right.
It's about showing up consistently, being generous with what you know, letting the quality speak for itself.
It's funny because it seems so counterintuitive these days. Everything's so instant, short-term, got to go viral.
Right. But this is about playing the long game, building that genuine credibility, putting your knowledge out there. And with podcasts, the audience is already there for it. They want that deep dive.
It's not passive. They hit play. They're choosing to spend that time.
Huge difference. It's a different kind of connection you make.
Yeah. This has been, honestly, such an eye-opener. It really makes you think about how we build influence, how we share what we know in this digital world.
Totally. And the source ends on this great question. It's like, okay, if podcasts can be 100 times more effective for SEO, what else is out there with audio? What haven't we even thought of?
Ooh, that's a good one. We've been talking podcast guesting, but what about like audio courses or those like workshops, but virtual?
Right. Or even just like quick audio snippets sharing an insight.
Ooh, I like that.
The possibilities are huge. It makes you realize this whole landscape of how we share knowledge, it's always changing. The people who experiment, try new things, connect authentically.
Those are the thought leaders of the future, right? It's about being adaptable, being like curious, even a little brave with how you share your passion. And on that note, if you're even slightly intrigued by this whole podcast guesting thing,
Go for it.
you never know what doors it might open, who you might connect with.
Exactly.
Until next time, keep exploring those possibilities, keep learning, and keep diving deep.